Alright, so basically I bought this new laptop for programming purposes. And yeah, basically it's brand new. I haven't installed nothing yet. It only has Google Chrome. But yeah, basically in this video I'm actually going to show you how do I configure and set up a laptop for programming, and also which programs do I use, and how I actually set up this laptop and its entire ecosystem for programming purposes. And yeah, that's actually sounded like a little bit too intellectual, but yeah, let's jump into it, right? Alright, so I'm Progmat from the future. I basically actually just finished setting up the laptop and installing all the programs, optimizing it and configuring it. Full programming. Yeah, basically gonna tell you what I have done in the last few hours, because it actually took me a few hours, like between 4 and 5 hours, because I actually optimized it, configured it, and installed a bunch of programs that I'm just gonna show you. So yeah, basically the first thing I started doing was downloading the basic programs, right? Like the programs that every person use. Well, the first program that I installed was Discord, because I used the application for communicating with friends and also with my girlfriend, so it's okay. And then basically I installed WinRAR, because it's actually pretty important, right, to extract files. And some other kind of programs that I'm not going to get too much detail, because they're like meaningless. And yeah, basically basic programs that everyone's use. And then I installed some Adobe programs. I installed Premiere Pro, basically for editing YouTube videos, because I do YouTube content and I use Premiere. And then I installed Photoshop and Adobe XD, basically Adobe Experience Design, for making screens of applications and basically designing like UI of like an app or stuff like that. So, and then Microsoft Office with all the automatic programs like Word, PowerPoint, and basically Excel. Those are like the most I use. So those programs were basically basic programs. But let's go to the interesting part, that is the programming part. Basically I'm using two main programs for programming right now. The first one being Visual Studio Code and also Sublime Text. Visual Studio Code is like an IDE, powerful text editor where you can download plugins. So yeah, basically I install Visual Studio Code and also added a bunch of plugins. I'm gonna say that I don't exactly remember in which order I installed all these programs. Basically, I just started like going page by page and downloading all the IDEs and programs at the same time. So yeah, I basically configured Visual Studio Code, added the plugins, went to configuration, and everything was pretty straightforward. And then basically I downloaded Android Studio and also Visual Studio. So yeah, basically I started installing Android Studio, downloading all the components, and basically configuring all the things that I need to configure. So yeah, basically when that was installing, I was also installing Flutter, which basically is the framework that I'm actually right now using for developing mobile apps. Actually been like developing on Flutter since quite a lot of time. I'm actually doing my startup application in Flutter, so it's actually pretty nice. So yeah, basically then when Android Studio finished, I started configuring it. Basically downloaded some component that I was actually going to use for running Flutter apps. And so yeah, I also tested an emulator and everything was pretty straightforward. I configured everything and tested a sample application and everything was good. So yeah, basically that's it. And then I went with Visual Studio. and installing it, everything was pretty straightforward also, so I didn't have any type of problem at all. Then I installed SAMP, which is actually a lot of programs for running web server and all of the stuff. So I actually use it a lot, SAMP, for running like test web server applications or something like that. Yeah, I need to install also like SQL database management system, because it's actually really important also. But yeah, basically after installing everything, I also install most of the programming languages that I use. I install Python, Java, and GCC, which is basically used for running C and C++ and programs. So yeah, basically those are actually pretty important, because if you want to run something quickly on the compiler, you can actually run it on CMD, basically the command line prompt of Windows. If you don't actually know, I'm joking. Everyone knows what CMD is, and if you're a programmer, you actually really. Yeah, also install Git, which basically Git, it's I don't know how to call it, like a software version controller protocol. I don't know how it's called exactly, but with Git, basically you can keep on track like different versions, and when you're building an app or you're developing something. And also it's really powerful for actually developing on team and being organized. So yeah, actually Git is really important. It has a lot of configuration, a lot of things actually configured, everything of it, because I actually use it. Then I installed Flutter, basically. So yeah, Flutter was pretty quickly to install, pretty easy to use. Yeah, everything went pretty straightforward, I think. Then actually configure and optimize the computer. Basically, when I refer like configurance, like I went into settings and I started changing some like battery stuff and some other Windows stuff that I don't like to have. Um, yeah, basically that was it. I restarted the computer and I'm here. That's how I actually set up a computer. I have seen a lot of YouTubers who have done this type of videos, like how I set up my primary computer, and those videos are actually really interesting. Myself, I just installed some IDEs, some text editors, boom, bam, bam, and the laptop is ready to go. So yeah, and that was it. I'm actually pretty happy because of the laptop. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and make sure to subscribe. Yeah, next video. See ya. Goodbye. What I'm even saying, dude? Like.